Get upset on the internet.
2 years. I am not letting Splat and Cambot Jr. make the alcoholic beverages ever again. Those dudes are freaks. I'm sure we had a wonderful time, but this headache...
Commander Dan!
I'll kill you. Cambot, my eyes are bleeding. What's so damn important?
Margot is offline.
No, she's not. And Splat, get off comms. Your voice is brain poison right now, little buddy. Okay, remember that weird threatening message from the vegan cluster a while back? She's calculating and backtracking the signal, little buddy. Now please, leave me to bleed out in peace and dignity.
But what about the evaluation?
Huh? I think I'm going to evaluate the backside of my eyelids until I fall the hell asleep. Then I'll handle the game. And oh gosh, my head hurts so bad. Then I'll handle the game evaluation. How does that sound to you? Can I command the retro station as its commander, please?
Commander, we need to do the evaluation, or the Planet X sponsors turn off your oxygen. Sorry, may I suggest you drink a delicious 7-Up to cure your ills?
What is this, the Truman Show? Why the love for 7-Up all of a sudden?
Well, it's a medical curative from Earth's early turn of the century.
No, it's a mixer for highballs, and it's like water's fancy cousin. Okay, this gives me an idea. Let's start the evaluation of this week's license. 80s kids. We were the test bed for all sorts of food and beverage catastrophes. Ecto-Cooler? Yeah, the stuff that comes out of Slimer, but it tastes like lemon lime. That was us. Jolt Cola? We were the patient zeros for how much caffeine is too much caffeine and sugar for a kid. The answer, of course, is any. Any is too much. I mean, this is what popsicle commercials look like for us. Look at that. That's insanity. In our age, they used a red dye in the candy and beverages we guzzled down as if we were chasing adult-onset diabetes until they found out that it gives mice cancer. Oh no, that's no good. So then they changed it to another formula and stopped testing it for cancer in mice, okay? So, look, it wasn't all terrible. Because things like Salsaria Doritos, one of my favorites, the Monster cereals, Hot Pockets, Warhead sour candies, shout out to the local brand, tested our mettle against how sour is too sour. For me, any sour is too sour. Ranch-flavored Doritos, that's Mr. Cool Ranch, thank you very much. Skittles, that's our era. But as much as we were given new addictive substances and tested on as 80s kids, this was nothing compared to what the hell was going on with the earliest patent medicines, which we now devour as soda or pop, or what's known as soft drinks. Trust me, cocaine being the chief ingredient in Coca-Cola, which is true, is just the tip of the iceberg. Pepsi, the choice of a new generation? Well, it didn't contain much in the way of crazy chemicals, just a shit ton of caffeine and sugar, designed to relieve dyspeptic ulcers and the like. I guess if you're wired on caffeine and sugar, you're not going to notice that you have a dyspeptic ulcer. Now, if you can believe that, when it comes to beverages, the soft drinks, people may not know this, but 7-Up, the one that was used medicinally and actually wasn't just cocaine and sugar espousing the benefits of coagulation or whatever the hell, was actually a medicine because it was lithium bicarbonate and lemons and limes and sugar and carbonated water claiming to be a mood stabilizer. And it actually worked because that's what lithium actually does. And that's the beverage we're talking about today, and the license as well. 7-Up. In the 80s and 90s, if it could be licensed, it ought to be licensed to kids. And in the 90s, if it could be licensed to kids and ought to be licensed to kids, it needed to be licensed with Tude. Ow. I could feel this headache in my teeth. No more bathtub gin for me.
Actually, Commander, the ethanol-based drink you consumed was made in the coolant tanks of Bilge Ring 6, not a bathtub.
Oh, I can't even bring myself to be nauseous.
Thanks,
Oh,
Commander.
God. This episode is going to deal with a sensitive subject. It's called Tude. Yep, and that's going to happen every time we mention it because it's hard to explain. I mean, these days, it's gone out of fashion to be a jagoff who just gainsays everyone and acts like a contrarian for the sake of being a dill hole. But back in the 90s, Tude soldier product. Mario was nice. Sonic had Tood. Librarian being a bit stuffy? Destroy everything with the macho Tood and beef snacks. Even drinks had some Tood. Okay. But it's going to happen every time I mention that word. The 7-Up logo had a red spot on it forever and a day. Their campaigns were often about being the un-cola, since it didn't have the cola nut and caffeine of other drinks. It seemed healthier and cleaner. But in the 90s, Tood radiation finally reached up 7-Up's skirt and out popped this guy. The Cool Spot. And that's the game we're evaluating today. Cool Spot for the Sega Genesis by Virgin Games. This is a platformer designed by David Perry with music by Tommy Tallarico. I think. Who's to say, really? I mean, the guy lies about everything. But for real, okay? This game came out at the height of the little splotch's popularity. A very weird time indeed. Let's get a little context. The history of video games is rife with tales of food mascots getting video games. Ronald McDonald, a bunch of times. Wimpy Burger, Burger King, well, the Whopper from Burger King. Kool-Aid, the Noid, who I defeated way back in Season 2. Destroyed him with my karate. Heck, even a dog food mascot, the Chuck Wagon, the wagon, had an Atari game. People think E.T., the game, caused the crash of '83. I say it was the shovelware masking his games based on food products that had more to do with it than anything else. Licensing, which my show has been about since the beginning, was the basis for a lot of the crap out there. But sometimes games come along that are genuinely fun to play and have a mascot that's wildly popular. Which brings us to the 7-Up Spot. Now, if you're in Europe, 7-Up's mascot has been this dude, Fido Dido, since the 80s. And there was a video game based on him that was canceled. Here's a little look at it. But here, the dot jumped off the package and became a cool customer who brought 7-Up into the homes of folks who'd been drinking, well, to hear the spots tell their story, motor oil. They had adventurers as tiny ambassadors to the world of 7-Up. When I was a kid, it was the Uncola guy, who I think played the racially problematic character Punjab in the musical Annie. But so much stuff was racially problematic in the 80s, I'm surprised they didn't make the 7-Up Spot a bindi for the Uncola guy, who I'm pretty sure isn't Punjabi or Hindi or even from that part of the world. Anyway, these poker chip-sized homunculuses would go around the world and do things on behalf of 7-Up. I'm almost certain the first commercial was this one, where the Spot jumps off the vending machine to give a jazz man a quarter, which I imagine dude stole from the machine because he's not only cool, he's got Tood. And in that commercial, they name 7-Up the Cool Spot, but now he's become the Cool Spot. By the way, I've been to Chicago a lot, and New York twice. Two things. One, the subway platforms are not the cool spot. They're either blisteringly cold or murderously hot because there's no airflow. Second, most musicians are at street level. If you happen to see a dude with a saxophone at the subway platform, he wants to sell you that horn for some crack, or meth, or detergent, or whatever his poison might be. Also, they smell intensely of pee. 7-Up, that is not the cool spot. But, off the subject of one fizzy liquid to another, the cool spot became a hit. Christmas commercials, superb owl commercials, because I don't want to get sued by the NFL. This dude was everywhere. And what happens to licenses that the youth are not immediately crapping on in the 90s? Why, we turn it into a video game. My head's feeling a lot better, though. I had some of that sody pop they were talking about, and it was refreshing. Lemon, lime, and what was that other flavor?
Lithium bicarbonate and heroin.
Say what? Heroin?
I'm just kidding. It's just lithium bicarbonate. Was that a good joke, Commander?
Okay, well, it was a joke, but yeah, I'll hold off on judgment until I'm sure I'm not going to be cutting albums with the Velvet Underground, little buddy. Margot wouldn't do something like that, okay? She knows humor. She should be back online shortly. Anyways, this is the game. Cool Spot by Virgin Games for the Sega Genesis. Now, this isn't the first game to feature our little pepperoni impersonator mascot, but I'm sure it's the first that comes to mind for most people who've heard about it. Let's take a look at the game and evaluate whether Cool Spot for the Genesis has a license to play. The first game for this mascot was just called Spot. It was a puzzle board game thing. It was kind of fun, And the box claims that the game's critics say Spot was cool if you were 6 or 60. Now that's ad speak, ad copy, and instead of reading it like that, like they intended, I'm going to read it how it actually is. The game is cool if you're 6, because it's a board game, or 60, because it's slower than molasses on the back of a turtle running backwards on a Saturday. It plays, to quote GameSack, like tepid fudge. Check those guys out, by the way. They're in the description below. They're great. And it's fine for what it is. When the Spot took off, though, in the zeitgeist of the moment, and reached maximum tude, they made this game. The game was designed by David Perry, and it is 100% a David Perry platformer. If you could set a methodology of how play is done to be copywritten, or copy-pasted, the copy-paste David Perry platformer might as well be a trademarked and copyright David Perry joint. Aladdin, Earthworm Jim 1 and 2. Pretty much anytime you're playing as a licensed character, platforming against an interesting but static background, collecting a bunch of crap, you know what? If you feel like you're playing an Amiga game like Zool, but it's for your console, thank David Perry. That dude cemented an easy platforming style that could be copy-pasted onto Jungle Book, Lion King, Aladdin, etc., etc., until we all were sick of that type of platformer. But this was when the style was brand new, so we can forgive Cool Spot for being derivative, because it's one of the games that all those weak-ass licensed games are derivative of. It's only derivative of maybe Aladdin, but I think these were produced around the same time. Cool Spot has 11 levels, and they range from a surf shop to a beach to the interior of a yacht. Basically, it seems like this was all because Tommy Tallarico wanted to create a MIDI chiptune version of Wipeout. So the beach nautical theme is pretty heavy here. Before I continue, a moment to talk about Mr. Tallarico, just a bit. If you want to know more about this guy, over on H-Bomber Guy's channel, he has a lowdown on this lowdown notorious character. I've done a couple videos regarding his Amico. Oh boy. But the link in the description, I implore you to watch it, as one of the most insane sagas related to Tommy Tallarico, which gives you some insight into this ghoulish douchebag, okay? Anyway, your Cool Spot buddies have been kidnapped, 4 in each level, for a total of 44 Spot guys you need to release. You shoot out sparkling bubbles to battle crabs, clams, mice, and according to the manual, a guy named Bill designed the levels and created the baddies, which is total hog-ish because we know David Perry created the game. So instead of screaming, "Damn you, Bill," like the manual asks you to do, don't scream, and just go, "David Perry." Same old crap. The game's mechanics are great, actually. The jumping is fun, and on the Genesis, the movement is crisp and responsive. The SNES has a weird tiny lag that makes the game pretty difficult to get a handle on for the first half hour, so it might turn you off. And while the levels aren't much to scream about in terms of innovation, the graphics are fun, and the bonus levels are great fun. And that rendition of Wipeout, correctly attributed in the manual's credits, thank the maker, is very, very good. But there's one question not answered within this cart's 11 levels and plastic and chips. And that question is, does Cool Spot for the Genesis have a license to play? Well, yes it does. However, the SNES version I'd have to give a pass. With the way the SNES renders the levels and the slight lag in its controller play, there's no license for the SNES version. Best to avoid. This version, this version is top notch. And that's this week's evaluation. And the screen indicates that Margot has triangulated the hostile broadcast, and we're going to get some answers next time here on License to Play. But in the meantime, remember to please give me a like if you like what you saw, and subscribe down below if you want to become one of my mighty space pirates. And also, no matter what I've said during this evaluation, or in the past, or any time in the future, remember to always, always, always stay retro. Peace.
Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. You're a salt adult. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. Throwing out a hissy fit, your views ain't in the millions, and every up and comer is a threat to what you're dealing. And instead of getting better, you just spout up on your Facebook, crying on your Twitter bit about how bad your case look. In case you didn't get it yet, allow me to rephrase it. You cry more than my 4-year-old, I'm actually amazed. Like you couldn't even see the forest for the trees. The writing's on the wall, literally there to see. How you getting salted, a culture blowing up, man? I think there was a point where you started growing up, man. Instead of showing up, man, irrationally mad. Don't appropriate impression like the latest fashion fad. It isn't cool or funny to be acting like an edgelord. You alienate friends, pushing closer to the edge more.